Okay, uh, a great time to be back. Our people, those who've been asking where the podcast, here we are. After a short break, trying to analyze and assess the progress and what we could discuss next. We are back, very well energized. As you can see, we're sipping some tea, some Kenyan tea. Ready to tackle something new. So we took a little break to assess what we were doing and also discuss or put together what we could discuss in the coming days. And we're happy to bring you something new and fresh. That is it for this brief introduction. Amos, you can say a word.
Okay, thank you so much, Elias. Yeah, so it's a pleasure to be back again. It's always a pleasure to hold these podcast sessions. We do this because in our hearts we believe that it's very important for us to pass on information to whoever it may concern, or to the people who follow us, to understand some of the statistical concepts or things in this realm of statistics which do affect our lives on a day-to-day basis. And we want to make them to be sort of very accessible to you and also help you to relate with these things in your day-to-day life. Because this particular field of study is a very essential field of study it's very significant in our world. Yeah, and one of the products that we have seen from this particular field that has shaken the entire globe is AI, which we've been discussing so much in our previous podcasts. So I'm happy to be back again, and I hope that the session which you're going to hold today, we're going to learn something that is very, very important in our day-to-day life, and we hope we are going to apply it, and it's going to help us to ensure that we avoid making some mistakes based on what we listen and what we hear. So thank you so much, Elias, and I'm happy to be back again.
Okay, thank you so much. So to jump right into it, and it's good that you mentioned the aspect of artificial intelligence, AI, in its abbreviation. They say we live in the age of information. There is just too much information. And the fact that there is too much information, the simpler the information, the easier you can take it and move on.
Yeah.
Because there is just too much. And in that regard, we worry a lot when facts are misrepresented.
True.
In the age of AI, because the amount of damage it can do, it's enormous. There is misrepresentation of fact, sometimes using numbers to lie. I say numbers don't lie, but people use numbers to lie.
Yeah.
Reporting and all those. So today we thought we want to look into reporting of statistical information, trying to avoid making it technical so that everyone can understand what we're discussing.
Yeah.
In technical language, we say statistical reporting. But statistical reporting could be taken over by the journalists when they are now sharing that information to the public. For instance, a good example that we have highlighted is the use of marijuana in cancer treatment. If you just take it like that, marijuana is important for cancer treatment, and then that is your title of the article or reporting, then it's misleading from the word go. So we have different aspects of statistical reporting or even carrying out a research. Those are things that we thought to highlight because the public and you as a human being need facts. You need to make your own conscious decision, not to be manipulated because someone has lied to you about some statistics and some research they did. A good recent example is the vaccines, which everyone took, or majority of us took at the COVID-19. it was based on the argument that there was enough evidence that everyone was supposed to take the vaccine for your own well-being and good, and for the good of the public. But evidence that has continued to come in, it's becoming clear that the proponents of everyone take vaccines were not even sure about the effects or the potential effects of the vaccines on the population. So we need to go back to the basics. We've come across researches that are conducted without necessarily giving people consent to participate. When you're giving out your data, we highlighted an example of, was it WorldCoin or what was it? The one people were giving in Iris.
It's the iris data, the fingerprints.
Fingerprints. So did you consent to provide those information and data? And even if you consented, did you know how they were going to use it? So all those aspects of research, both social and clinical stroke health research, we think are very important for people to understand, so that you are not used to give information and data.
Yeah, actually, the way you put it is quite right, and yeah, you have made me think deeper about this this discussion of today. I think what our listeners need to appreciate first of all is that statistics has become a very, very essential part of our society. It has become very essential in advancing the world as we see it right now, because its application in different fields, let's say like medical field, when in the medical research, in agriculture, in production, and manufacturing, it has had, and also in business, it has had a very profound effect on how we do our businesses, in our aspirations to improve processes, get better results, let's say like get better treatment, get better products into the market, and yeah, generally just advancing the society by producing what is best in whatever aspect of life that you want to look at. So it has become a very, very critical part of our society. So it is also very, very important for us now to know the significance of this particular field, appreciate it, and also know that it can, in as much as it can be used for good, some characters can use it to mislead people. And that's the bottom line of our conversation today.
So thank you so much for that. So when we talk about let's get some quick examples. I was doing a quick search on the example we wanted to use, marijuana and cancer treatment. That topic itself, when you read it, what do you get yourself?
Yeah, so actually that has been a very interesting thing. Yeah, because I've been following on such studies for quite a while now. Because you know, in the society right now, there's that there's that high level of receptiveness towards the use of marijuana. It has become a very cultural thing, and nowadays people tend to associate it with the current generation as something that is cool, something that you need to be doing.
If you don't do it, then
you're uncool.
You're an outcast.
You're very old. You're very traditional. Outdated, outdated, obsolete. So it is something that it has become a very common thing. It's a household discussion that we find in most places, and in countries like Kenya, the use of marijuana has really grown tremendously in the let's say 5 years, and this has really made people try so much to justify why they use this. I'm not saying that I know people who use it. I'm just saying that I hear people saying it. They try to justify the use of marijuana, and I think most of us, even the listeners, you have heard of these discussions where people try to say that cancer, marijuana can treat cancer, it can cure depression, it can increase your appetite and all that. Yeah, we have so many let's say like so many perceptions about the effect of using marijuana.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes because the topic is very spicy and is very attractive to people right now, you'll find journalists diving into studies which have been done on this particular drug, and then they make publications in the newspapers, or
mainstream media,
in the mainstream media,
Yeah.
and these publications usually they tend to give an impression. Okay, some of them, not all of them. You might find some publications which give an impression that it's true that marijuana can cure cancer, which is a very, very powerful claim. So you have to substantiate that claim to the stringent level that you can have there.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you go and read the actual article where they extracted this information from, you'll come to find that, oh, okay, I think they just reported to because of the hype, not because of the truth.
Probably to get views.
Yeah, to get views and get readership and something like that, but not to pass on the true information that has been that is inside these publications. And sometimes you find that most of these journalists, okay, I'm just giving this one now is a claim or is just an hypothesis. I believe that most of these journalists who do this writing, I can say in the Kenyan context, they tend to have minimal understanding of statistics.
Statistics.
Yeah. So if you have minimal understanding of statistics, it's very easy for you to misrepresent facts.
Yeah.
And that's what we usually see. In these publications.
Yeah, probably they might go and check the conclusion, or rather the findings.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to open my computer because I had some articles as reference point. They might go and check the conclusion of the article and go with it. I was reading another article. For some reason, my computer is taking some time.
Yeah.
I was reading another article. We shall open it once it's ready. So the article claims in the conclusion that yes, this is an article by for those who like checking these things, you can check Kramer 2015, published by the Cancer Journal for Clinicians. And he was talking about medical marijuana for cancer. So it was quite a good analysis of the use of medical marijuana, not just marijuana. Because if you're looking at medical marijuana, then you're breaking it down into the components of marijuana. They say there are more than 60 components in marijuana, and only a few of them. Examples given is dronabinol, nabilon, and others that can, to some extent, help in treatment of signs or rather symptoms of malaria, or rather cancer, or even in the chemotherapy process. That does not mean or imply the whole marijuana is medicinal.
Is medicinal,
In fact, if you read that article in detail, you realize the author was breaking it down into the effects. Marijuana, it's one of the main causes of lung cancer. So you were talking of marijuana being a cause of lung cancer, but you want to use it again as a treatment. You see the paradox. We have the smoke that comes out of it, the chemicals in it, tar, hydrogen cyanide, ammonia, carbon monoxide. All are these chemicals,
components that are coming from
toxicants in marijuana. So if you smoke it, I don't think you'll be treating yourself. You'll actually be worsening a situation. So that article actually provided or highlighted those side effects, but the conclusion was it can be used.
And you see. Okay. Also from that article, you see, the author went to an extent of telling you that we do have these particular chemicals which are present in marijuana that can be essential in curing cancer or mitigating the symptoms of cancer. But also he or she pointed out that it has this same product has some other chemicals that are not healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but you see now the journalist will now tend to pick these spicy parts where they say that these chemicals, which are in marijuana, because they want these headlines that are going to turn heads.
Yeah.
So they just pick that portion that says that it cures, and then that's what they run with it.
Yeah. Some interesting statements in that article were, if you smoke marijuana and someone else takes marijuana in food, someone else does the steam, the effects can vary. That if you smoke, then you're exposing yourself to the smoke itself, which has tar and the carbon monoxide. And others. But if you're using the steamed or in food, there is some claim that it is healthier. It's healthier. But now
it depends on the nature of release.
At the bottom of it, we're saying the chemicals in marijuana are still the same.
They're still the same.
So to try and make a conclusion that the potential to cause cancer or the carcinogenic elements in marijuana can be minimized, then that could be misleading. So what we're saying here is even the scientists who are writing these articles, they are not giving, we would argue that they are not giving an objective, they're not giving objective conclusions based on the findings or based on the facts that exist. And that's why we decided also to highlight aspects of let's say the cardinal rules or the gold rules of doing research.
The best practices.
But before we come to that, we have other examples, I think.
We have numerous examples.
We have in politics, people are using opinion polls here and there to show.
Actually, it's very, very common, especially in countries like ours, in Kenya. Let's say these countries where we are really struggling so much with democracy. We do have this problem so much.
Even those who claim to be grown democratically.
Like the US.
We came to learn that the US is not different from us.
So let me, we'll give those examples as we come back from the break. So, welcome back. So, when it comes to opinion polls, this is one of the areas where statistics is usually misused so much, by companies that try to influence particular opinion in the society. Countries like Kenya, we do have a number of companies that do conduct the opinion polls, and we have companies like Infotrack. I think we have Ipsos Innovate, we have TIFA, and all that. So these companies, they're most, let's say, like the most population, like the entire population usually relies on these companies to provide some sort of like as a snapshot of the political landscape during this election seasons, electioneering periods.
Popularity of a candidate.
You want to know the popularity of a candidate. Maybe you have a preferred presidential candidate. You want to know how he's being is faring. He or she's.
we have female governors. They might come for your throat.
And they them, but you don't. You don't encourage everyone.
That nonsense is not used here.
So you might find like when TIFA they have conducted their proclaimed polls, they come with a candidate. They say that a particular candidate A is leading. When Sinovet conducts its own polls, they say candidate B is the one who is leading. So if these two companies are using the best, they're conducting this research by adopting the best practices or following the gold standard of research, Why are they providing varying results? Why is it not consistent? It's not consistent because there are other factors that need to be considered to make sure that the results tally. And this is what we really want. This is the primary focus of this video. We want to explain to you what are the best practices, the gold standard that you have to stick with to make sure that whatever findings that you're presenting to people are accurate and can be useful, and they reflect the true picture of a particular phenomenon of interest.
So someone told me politics is about propaganda. So if you do your propaganda properly, then you have your way.
Actually, on top of that one, the way they also make it worse. Let's say like if candidate A, if a particular company has done the polls, then you have candidate A, who let's say is leading by let's say like 47%. Then candidate B is behind let's say with like 48%. So what they do in the media sometimes is that instead of plotting a graph that truly shows that the difference is just 1%, they just concentrate on this 1%. They just try to enlarge the 1%.
Enlarge the graph.
They enlarge the graph to make the 1% looks like a very big difference. It is just 1%.
Just 1%.
Yeah, that's a very serious issue that usually occurs in media.
Yeah. Just recently, there's been is it a study or some article in the Western media?
Yeah.
I don't remember the media platform by name. But it was on Twitter. It was highlighted by the likes of Elon Musk and Jordan Peterson. Someone claimed, or the fact that it had been done as a form of study, it was no longer a claim. It was the finding that unmarried individuals were happier than couples. And then the question that we were being asked is, who funded the study? What was the sample size? If you understand the concept of a sample, what was the sample size? Who are the respondents? So what were the objectives of that study? And so many more questions you start asking, and then if there are no clear answers to this kind of a research finding, then your study, you can't claim that you did a scientific research and that people should follow it.
Yeah.
So so those are some of the things we are saying. Let's highlight these so that those who are interested in research, or if you are reading some research or you're exposed to some findings which probably might influence your life in some way, then you need to understand, I don't need to believe this, or I need to believe this because this has been satisfied. Let's look at these golden standards or rules which guide research. For those who've ever done any basic research, by basic research I'm saying, let's say you are a student, you're a master student or even undergraduate, you asked, give the ethical considerations of the study, right? You say participants will give consent to participate. Participation will be on voluntary basis. You can exit at any time. You will not be obliged to your identity will be private. The sensitive information will be confidential, and all those. It can sound easy to write them, but all along the way you find the people just ignore this. People collect data from you without your consent. The best example giving the WorldCoin, I don't remember the name.
It's WorldCoin, yeah.
WorldCoin,
yeah.
Where someone came to Kenya and Africa and they were collecting our biodata. I don't know if the participants were giving any consent or if they knew how that data would be used. So all those are violation of ethical considerations in any research, whether it's social or clinical. Clinical is in the health sector, which is very sensitive. You don't want to mess around with that. So when you talk about consent, why should people give consent to participate in a research? It might look like maybe I am coming to collect data from you so that I can give a program that supports you. So I take myself as an expert. I know the intervention which I need to bring to you so that I solve your problems. That's a mentality which has been used from the West for a long time towards Africa.
So actually now that question you're asking is you're basically now starting the conversation on the best practices that we need to adopt whenever you're conducting these studies. So one of the aspects, one of the best practices when it comes to research is that the participants of a particular research, they have to consent to that particular research before they undertake it, so that at least they understand the purpose of the research. So when it comes, historically, especially when it comes to, let's say, like the health-related or medical research, there have been some particular cases where this issue of consent has been misused, and it has been very common in the West, especially during, let's say, that the time of slavery, when the black people were injected with syphilis into their bodies. So and also now the other one which you mentioned about the Milgram's experiment, where participants were taken into the experiment without understanding the entire purpose of the research, without being consensual to the entire process of the study. And what has happened is that the scientists or researchers have come to determine that in such cases where consent has not been approved by the participants who are taking part in this research, we have a problem where now the participants themselves become affected, like in the case of the syphilis. Now they were infected with syphilis, and also in the case of the Milgram's experiment, they were psychologically disturbed because they were told to undertake a particular experiment which was mentally daunting. It was traumatizing, and it caused them to have psychological traumatic episodes. And you see, now this is not something that we like to see when it comes to conducting research. So it's good to give consent. And also on top of that one, if somebody has not consented to a particular study, so they might not end up giving up honest results. They're not going to give honest results. And that one is one of the most important things when it comes to studies.
You want honest facts about a specific phenomenon.
About a specific phenomenon. So if I ask you, and if I tell you that this study is about this thing, and you read about the purpose and the objective of the study, and you understand it, and you say, okay, I think I can take part in this study. You'll be willing to take part in the study. It will be from your heart. It's not you're not going to be coerced. So when you're giving your responses, you give honest responses. So it's very, very important. We have consent. So in cases where there is no consent, people might be forced to give, to be coerced to give responses which are very wrong and misleading. So the end results, the findings, they tend not to be very accurate.
For the person who let's say might have wondered, why do we talk about consent? I think that makes lots of sense. And then we have the aspect of sample size. When we're doing our statistics, we are taught different ways of sampling, both probabilistic and non-probabilistic sampling techniques. And we're encouraged to use probabilistic because everyone has a chance to participate in the study. If we talk of simple random sampling, stratified, cluster sampling, and others. So sampling is basically used since you can't reach out to everyone in a population. But now when you are doing, let's say, a clinical test, you might not be able to test on everyone the way they did on us for COVID.
The entire population.
The entire population was made to be tested. I mean, we are now confident to talk about this because the proponents of COVID vaccines have come out to say we were not sure about some things. So we're like, oh, if that's the case, then we can confidently talk about how you forced us into these vaccines. You remember we could not travel to Mombasa through train just because we did not have a vaccine. So you're forced to quickly go.
It was very wrong.
That was wrong because without the vaccine certificate, which do we still have your certificate?
I never even downloaded it. It's still online.
You could not access the public means of transport, the train. You could not board a plane.
It was very apocalyptic.
So it looks like we are coerced into those vaccines. Even though it was in the name of the public good, but the approach was wrong.
It was very wrong.
It was wrong, and anything unethical, it is immoral, because there are people who never vaccinated and
they're still okay.
They're still okay.
Even healthier.
Yeah, even healthy. In fact, the people, some people are vaccinated and they develop very serious side
complications.
effects. We had people who died because of
the vaccine.
Of the vaccines. So, out of all these, we can confidently say these practices that we are talking about, however simple they may look like,
they are very, very
they
clear.
are not observed. Now there is another call in Kenya that all cows should be vaccinated. Some of us are asking, where is this coming from? So we need the information before we can consent. Before we can consent our cows to be vaccinated.
It has to be consensual.
We've learned enough lessons to just blindly follow some of these instructions, regardless of who is giving them. So now, to avoid debating so much, we're talking about a sample and
sample size.
Sample size. So the example I gave someone who did research on the people with unmarried or rather unmarried individuals are happier than people with
who are married,
or people with children. Then you ask yourself, what was the sample size? A sample size, there is a process you use to come up with a sample size. You can't just go in a space and say, here I can see 100 people, I'll talk to 10. There is a scientific way of arriving
approaching
at
that one.
Sample size.
And
if it's a qualitative research where it's more of interviews, we normally say you interview to the point of saturation, where more information you get,
it's not going to change anything.
It's not changing anything. So if we can look at this sample aspect in detail, what is the significance of it? Either in social or scientific,
medical,
or rather medical
research. So actually, you have mentioned two aspects there. You have mentioned about sample size, and also you have mentioned about randomization. So how you conduct the study. So sample size it's very, very important. People don't know this, but and most studies, when they conduct these studies, they tend not to, like the journalists, they tend not to focus on the sample size. And which is a very, very important thing.
We've seen that before.
You've seen that one before. So they just focus on the findings. And sometimes not even the discussion. They focus on the findings. So sample size.
There is someone who has said Kenyans support Biden for president.
Like that one. It's a very recent post that Kenyans, they're supporting the bid of Biden's bid, of which if you do an actual scientific study, you might find the situation is otherwise.
Someone asked which Kenyans. So when you do a research and then you have someone asking which Kenyans,
you realize
which female, which married.
You realize,
you realize you've
something is not okay.
Something is off.
So sample size, and in this case, I just want to give a very simple example. I want to use the example of high school. When in high school. So let's go back to high school. When in high school, imagine you're in a class of, let's say like 100 students. And in that class, maybe the teacher or the school wants to gift you something. Let's say they want to cook for you something special for a particular day. Maybe let's say you went and performed very well. So they want to cook something special for you. If the principal wants to gift you because you have performed well in class, like the class has performed well, just imagine that scenario, that you are 100 students in that class. Then you're given an option. So the principal says, can I have 2 students who are going to come to my office and tell me what you want? Or should I take, let's say, like 10 students to come to my class, to come to my office and tell me what I should give to you? So if 2 students go to the principal's office to negotiate with the principal the type of gift, just imagine how narrow the opinions are going to be. But if you are having 10, you feel more confident with 10, because now you think you believe now your opinion
will be represented.
Yeah. So that's the significance of sample size. So when you're conducting these studies, sample size, how huge, how small the sample size is, really matters. So some of these studies that you usually publish, they tend to focus on a very small sample size, and you know that these studies, yes, we have to use samples because you cannot go to the entire population. It's very expensive to go to the time consuming to go to the entire population. So that's why we focus on just a small number of people who are selected using a very scientific approach when it comes to selecting these individuals into the sample. So if the sample size is small, it's not going to be representative. The sample has to be representative. So to make it representative, you have to make it at least bigger. And on top of that one, you have to make it, you have to select those people randomly. So those are the 2 things that you need to focus on very critically. And some of these studies, they don't do that. Yeah, they don't. You'll find somebody who is publishing, let's say, a study on marijuana, and they have conducted a study from, let's say, like 30 people.
30 people, yeah.
Yeah. So if you collect findings from 30 people, and now you want to tell the entire world that marijuana cures cancer, it's very misleading.
It's misleading.
It's very misleading.
And then remember, in such clinical studies, we do what we call follow-ups.
Yeah.
Follow-ups are very important, so that if there was any treatment, then you're tracking what is the effect of that treatment over long term. Yeah, like if we were taking an example of COVID, there were supposed to be tests in 2020. We follow up 2 years later. Were those people okay after receiving the vaccine?
So that's the research design now.
That's
another thing.
We've gone to the research.
That's the research design. Yeah. So the thing is this. You see, the question now people might ask is that what sample size is enough, is adequate? Yeah. So one thing, it depends with the phenomenon being studied. Like in the case of Kenya, we're talking about the opinion polls. Kenya has a population of 50 million people.
Approximately. Or about.
Thereabout. 50 million people. So if you want to collect opinions about these 50 million people, you cannot go and ask 10 people or 100 people questions, and based on their responses, you say, okay, Kenyans think this way.
Yeah, you go into Rukana and then ask 10 people.
Yeah.
And then claim.
And then you claim that Kenyans think this way.
Yeah.
That is wrong.
Yeah.
You don't do that. Yeah. So what you need to do, first of all, with regards to sample size, you need to collect a very huge number of people who are going to be in your sample. At least, let's say, we'll talk about like 8,000 to 12,000 people in that study. This is a very big population. This is a very big number.
And then remember, it needs to represent every county.
That's now understanding now the confounding factors. Now that's another thing that you need to understand. You need to look at the confounding factors, because if you're conducting an opinion poll, you cannot focus on urban centers alone. Urban centers alone are not the locations where all the voters are. Voters are scattered everywhere into the country. So you have to sample from the urban centers as well as rural centers.
And the urbanization itself has effects.
Has its own effects.
On the population. When you talk of access to technology, even the education level, you find the urban centers are overly represented.
Exactly. So that's thing that you need to consider. So if they have done a study on marijuana and they have only taken only 30 people and now they're giving you results, don't run with those results. Those are just studies to spark ideas and what can be studied.
Yeah.
But whatever finding that they get there is not conclusive. You cannot work with that one.
Yeah.
The sample size is very small.
Yeah.
But if it's a bigger one, if you're talking about hundreds or thousands of people,
Yeah.
now we can talk that, okay, these findings, we can discuss about that.
Yeah.
We can look at other factors and assess if the study met all the thresholds that it's supposed to meet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're also talking about a sample size, there is closely related to that is the aspect of randomization.
Yeah.
Where if I decide that I'm using 8,000 Kenyans to give an opinion about a specific candidate, or I want to test a specific vaccine on 2,000 people, can I just go somewhere and then say, let's take these 2,000 and then we're going to test on you?
Yeah, yeah.
Or as long as you accept and you're in this group, let's
Yeah.
go with 8,000 and then that is it. Or the aspect, so the main point is the randomization.
Yeah.
That if I have 8,000 respondents or participants to my survey on perceptions about a specific candidate, how will I make sure every Kenyan has a chance of giving their opinion, even though I just need 8,000?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have something to say about
Yeah,
randomization.
that's very true.
Yeah.
Actually, randomization is a very, very critical aspect of any research, and this is one of the gold standards that has to be met by medical as well as social researchers. Or other scientific researches or studies. So randomization, why is randomization very important? The reason why it is very important is because in any particular population, if you're talking, let's say if you're talking about people, there is so much variation within the population. Yeah, there's so much variation within the population. We can look at simple variations. The first variation that is usually to spot is gender. Yeah, people have different genders. We have male and female in a population.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a study that is supposed to represent both genders, and then you just select one gender, that is not representative.
It's biased.
It's totally biased. Yeah, to that particular gender which you have selected.
Age groups
Is another very, very important thing. If you're doing a study that is supposed to present the entire community and you just sample maybe youth only,
adolescents,
or adolescents,
or you just talk to old people,
it's not going to give you it's going to be very skewed
Generation
results.
X and the boomers
and now the millennials like us and something like that one. These results are going to be very skewed. So if the intention of the study is to represent the entire population, then you have to make sure that in your sample, you have selected people from different, let's say like regions. We can start with the regions, genders, age groups, education levels, income levels. You have to factor in all that. And this is achieved very well through randomization. Randomization is very key in removing biases that can be introduced by sampling. Because if I'm supposed to talk about, let's say something like if I'm supposed to do a study in Kenya and I want to talk about economic hardship, and I go and say in this study I want to focus on, let's say like Nairobi as a city. So my study, if I do a calculation based on the population of Nairobi, I need to sample, let's say 200 people from Nairobi. And my intention is to understand what is the level of economic hardship that is being felt by Kenyans. If I go and select 200 people from Rwanda, it's going to paint a very wrong picture of the true economic situation. Because in Rwanda, as well know, most people there, they can afford life. They live a high quality life. Or if I decide to go and to ghetto, like a place like Kibera, and sample 200 people there, it's going to give a very different perspective about the economic hardship in the country. So what I need to do is that I need to make sure I've selected some people from Kibera, some people from Rwanda, some people from these middle class regions, to make sure that I consider all those opinions, because the area that a person is located in the county does affect how they're going to respond to this question. Absolutely. So I have to make sure that I've controlled for that one. And that one is controlled through randomization.
Yeah.
You're making sure that you contain all those people.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important.
Yeah.
So if a study is not has not been randomized, do not trust those results.
Yeah.
Those are not good results.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to be randomly.
Yeah.
The samples have to be randomly selected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we touched a little bit on the aspect of of the design. What is a design? What is a design in research?
Yeah, so we can say a design in research is the particular way, just like simple, this term is just design.
Design.
A simple way of which you're going to, the set of rules that you're going to abide by when conducting your study.
When developing your study. Yeah.
Yeah. So different studies, they call for different types of research designs. Medical research, depending on a particular condition which you're studying, it depends on a study design, because you can do the longitudinal, which you're talking about.
The follow-up.
The one which has a follow-up, which is one of the best research types.
Yeah.
Because it does not just give you a snapshot.
Yeah.
It gives you the story for over a long period of time. Yeah, which is very. That's why the vaccines which were invented, which you used to have previously before the COVID, they were quite very good vaccines, because
very good, yeah,
very efficient, because the studies were the clinical trials, they were longitudinal in time.
Yeah.
So they used to follow up. Yeah, we gave you this vaccine. So what is observation after 2 years, after 3 years?
Results,
Yeah. It was very. They were very, very solid techniques. So in medical research, we can do a longitudinal or a cross-sectional study. But one thing that has to happen in medical study, especially the clinical trials, these clinical trials usually are very experimental. They're experimental.
Yeah.
So we have to do an experimental study, which means we need to have a control group and a experimental group.
Experimental group, yeah.
Yeah, or the treatment group.
Yeah.
We need to have those two.
Yeah.
The reason why you need to have those two is to make sure that you can compare the effect of a particular treatment or intervention.
Yeah.
So if you do an experimental study which does not have a control group,
control and trial group,
groups, that's null and void.
Yeah. And this is how we end up to do the comparison of means.
Yeah.
Does control group and the trial group differ? This is where the aspect of statistical significance comes in. If it is not statistically significant, then it means your test or
your intervention
is
not working.
Is not working. So you have to think of what do you need to change.
And the other question is, how do you know it's working?
Yeah.
So that's why we have the control.
Yeah.
The control group, for those ones who might not know, if we have discovered a drug A, which is going to treat, let's say, something like migraines, we need to have people who are going to be exposed to the same conditions, but are not going to be given the actual drug.
Yeah.
And we need this another group of people who are exposed to those similar conditions as the control group, but they're going to receive the actual medication.
The treatment,
the actual treatment.
Yeah.
So this will help us know that, okay, under the same conditions, these people who receive the drug, they're feeling better because of this particular drug compared to those ones who did not receive the drug. That way, we can conclude and say that this drug is effective in treating these migraines.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that, if you don't have a control, how will you tell us that it's treating? Because we, in experiments, we do have a very big problem that is called the placebo effect.
Yeah.
And the placebo effect is the one which helps people walk, cripples and blind people see in crusades.
When the prophet says, now you can walk.
Yeah.
I declare
you're healed.
Yeah.
It's because of the placebo effect. The excitement and the belief that this can happen makes you so excited and you feel like you're okay. So the placebo effect is a very big problem that we have in medical research. But randomization and also having control and experimental groups, and on top of that one, we do the double-blind experiment. That one helps us to remove all these effects of the placebo. Yeah. So these are the things that we need to look at when you're assessing a study. Make sure that if it's a medical research which has been done, was it experimental? Yes. Did it have enough sample size? Yes. So did we have the control and the experimental group? Yes. At least now we can now start trusting that information. And was it double blind? And by double blind, we mean that the people who are receiving the medication, they should not know which drug is a placebo and which one is the actual drug. They should not know that, because if you give me a drug and it's the actual one, and you tell me this is the medicine, and tell the other person that it's not medicine, already you are conditioning my mind to if I'm the one receiving the drug, you're conditioning my mind to believe I'm going to be healed. And if you're telling me it's not the drug, you're conditioning my mind not to feel okay. So you not tell the people. And also the one who is giving them the drugs, don't tell them this is for the placebo and this is, because they'll also act differently in that room.
It needs to be random.
It needs to be random, and it needs to be very blind for the people who are in that setup.
I don't know if we still have some minutes, because a very important aspect of this conversation is declaration of conflict of interest. Who has financed your research? You see, you can have all these things you've listed, but the person who has the person or entity who has financed the research have some interest. We are seeing that massively in the pharmaceutical industry. And that is catastrophic to the population, because anything can go. You want to talk about contraceptives? I want, let's say, Africans not to have children. Just assume, rather pretend like you're doing this research. You're using some scientific approaches. You have lots of money here. We are focusing more on the end goal, which is to give specific drugs to a specific population, because we have an interest in it. The pharmaceutical companies, we're saying they have so much vested interest in these vaccines and these drugs, until they finance scientific studies, and then we can claim this was done by scientists, and the results look like they are reliable, they can be applied. So the aspect of conflict of interest or the funding of the study, I think is at the center stage of everything now.
That's completely true.
In the age where everyone is unethical.
And in this capitalist world. Actually, that's a very huge problem. In fact, in the last, I think, 2-3 years, there has been so much controversy in the US because they have come to find that most of these clinical trials which are conducted on particular medications in the US, they were highly funded by the pharma, the big pharma. And these pharmaceutical companies, by the virtue of them funding these clinical trials, they tend to skew the results.
Skew the results towards a specific
outcome. They want to bring these drugs to market, even if they are not effective drugs. It's a very common thing that is happening in the US. Where and you know, sometimes we have to have checks and balances when it comes to financing these clinical trials, because when it comes to medication is very dear to everyone, because you have to ingest these things into your body, and it has to interfere with the chemistry of your body. So this is something that is very serious. This means that we need to have very strict rules to make sure that whoever the companies that are funding this research, they have to be impartial, and that's not the case in the US, because the US has allowed these farmers which create these drugs and sell them to people, has allowed them to finance clinical trials, and they have the freedom to conduct these clinical trials in their own setting, where they don't have to come and tell you this and this is how we did the research. It's a very huge problem. So if you want to look at a result of a particular study, first of all, look at who has financed this study, who is said to benefit from the findings of this study. That way, you'll have an easy time knowing, okay, if you can trust the results. Because if, let's say, a company like Pfizer has financed a study on cannabis, on this medicinal cannabis, and then they're the ones they have come up with a particular formula of that cannabis, then they conduct their own clinical trials. Then they tell you that this drug is going to help you to cure cancer. Then they sell it to you. Automatically, there's conflict of interest there. Yeah.
It's like a monopoly in everything.
They have a monopoly in everything,
Yeah.
on all the information. So it's going to be just, it's going to be fair if it's another company that has done the clinical trials on these particular drugs to make sure that the side effects of these drugs are well understood, and the good outcomes of these drugs are well understood,
Yeah.
to give us results which are impartial and can be trustworthy.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And also in politics in Kenya.
Yeah, in politics it's so common because not just in Kenya, it's all over.
All over,
It's all over. When a specific politician wants to create an impression that they are popular, just finance a specific company to do a survey.
Yeah.
It's called opinion polls. Yeah. So I think today's conversation has been insisting on accurate statistical reporting and the process of research, because in the age of artificial intelligence and what you call the age of information, when there is just too much information on the internet, you want to get accurate and reliable information. You want those AI models to learn from accurate information, because you can imagine the impact that we can have when the generative AI models are learning from inaccurate information which was published by unethical human beings. Then the impact on the whole population is just massive. Like if we can have sufficient enough reports that unmarried individuals are happier than married couples or married individuals, and those AI models are actually learning from such kind of misleading information, then the impact is young people decide, no, I'm not going into this.
I want to be single.
I want to be happy.
Yeah, single and happy.
Which is not the best way.
Yeah.
It's not the optimal way of life. There is a better way to pursue meaning. I'm not saying it's wrong. You can make your own decision, but don't be influenced by some articles online. And the call for morality and for everyone just to do the right thing and publish the right information on different platforms. That is why we have to insist, as people who understand the process of research, we have to insist that not everything that is published, even in scientific journals, is accurate and right and communicating the facts. Some of them have been funded by people with vested interest. Some did not have sufficient sample sizes, did not observe the ethical considerations, they used inappropriate designs, they had their own agenda they were pursuing. So the accumulation of all those factors can end up affecting the results and the outcome of scientific or journalistic information published online. So that, I think, in conclusion, that was I can say was the essence of this podcast. Everything is we're trying to connect to AI because it is the age or the era in which we are. We have to make sure we have AI that is good, that serves the bigger purpose of humanity. I don't know if you have concluding remarks, Amos.
Okay, yeah. So time is always the enemy. Yeah, we wish to discuss this thing in details. We wish to give you examples and take you through all these things. But now time is not on our side. Yeah, so basically, as Elias has just mentioned, the goal for this particular episode was just to bring to your awareness that sometimes statistics can be used to manipulate the truth, and this is something that has been happening still happening and will still happen. So it's upon you as a responsible human being to take the initiative of now interrogating, being critical of everything that is published. Yeah, it's a good habit that you can develop that is going to be very important in terms of improving how research is done, because every time somebody publishes something that is not accurate and something that does not abide by the gold standards, then we can call to question what they are saying that is true. So that way we can make sure that whatever research is done, it's done in a fashion that is we can reproduce it. It's done in a fashion that can reflect the truth, and whatever finding that they present there is the finding that can actually help people. So let us not allow people to mislead us with their own findings, and let us always call them to be responsible, to take responsibility, and make sure that everybody has done something that is verifiable, something that is valid, something that can help people. So kindly take these things seriously, because they do affect us so many times and in so many ways. Thank you so much for your listenership.
Okay, thank you so much. And those who've been following and asking, where have you been? I think I've already said you're back.
Yeah.
For those who are seeing it for the first time, remember to touch that subscribe button. And if you want to see subsequent podcasts or episodes from us, remember to tap the notification button. It will ring a bell, and you will definitely...
You'll never miss an episode.
You'll never miss to hear from us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.